Parents, welcome to another episode of The Journey, a podcast intended to educate, equip, and entertain you as we talk about important issues facing our families. PCA is a Christ-centered, biblically based, and family-focused community of committed believers doing life together. We hope the information you hear on this podcast informs and inspires you to be a better parent. Welcome to The Journey.
All right, parents, welcome back to The Journey. This is Dan Panetti. I've got the two leaders of the upper school at PCA North and PCA Plano, Greg Wright, Chad Nichols. Welcome to the Parent Podcast.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
thank you.
You bet. And we're going to talk about all things Minimester, which is an incredible program that PCA has. And I want our parents to know about it, specifically, like what it is, the opportunities, because we've got our upper school students about to sign up for these things. But it really affects our entire school. So we want to really kind of dive into this and take a listen, talking about what Minimester is for those, especially for those who are new to PCA, might not know about it. But even if those have been here for a long time, there's some changes that have been made, and it's always in a program that's being adjusted and developed and refined. And so we want to make sure parents are up to speed on all those things. So, Greg, what is Minimester? If you just wanted to kind of dive into the letting our parents know what this particular program is.
Well, I'll just say this: I'm going into my 6th year here at PCA, and I just appreciate the intentionality, the purpose, the mission, the focus. And we do a lot of things well here at PCA, but I think Minimester is one that we do very well. And we see it as an extension of the PCA classroom.
I love it.
And it's an opportunity for our students to be able to grow their biblical worldview. And I just appreciate the fact that PCA as a school system puts a priority on Minimester. And it's a integral part of our culture, integral part of our curriculum. And by sharing the gospel, we believe that we're going to take an entire week for curriculum, an entire curriculum week, and with a missions focus, and that's a priority. Yeah. And when I first got here, I went, wow, okay, so this is not spring break. This is a week prior to spring break, and this is a big thing. Yeah. And there is a huge focus. And ultimately at the end is that we want to be able to spread the gospel, whether that be locally, whether that be domestically or internationally.
Yeah, it's an incredible program, and I think the primary emphasis, right, is when we talk about the Great Commission and taking our kids and putting them on mission. In my 19 years that I've been at PCA, the one thing I've noticed that I think the parents don't really understand is what an impact Minimester actually has on our kids. And so we talk about this all the time, and it's very true that when we put our kids in different places, we send them to, whether it's locally, whether it's South Dallas, whether it's Salina, whether it's, a city like a Denver or Miami, or we send them overseas, whether it's, Uganda or the Amazon, our kids come back different. And that's kind of the amazing thing that I think Minimester doesn't get as much credit as it actually deserves as a program that is life transforming, because a lot of the transformation actually happens with our kids.
That's 100% correct. That's one of the things that I think, it's easy to mistake this as a big week of trips that we do for our students. Right. And if we view it as that, we're really missing a lot of what goes on in terms of Minimester. I know our Abilene trip. Abilene, it's not one of our most glamorous destinations, but it historically has had more students repeat attending that trip than any that we've had at the Plano campus. And on that trip, we go to Abilene and work with a group called Disabilities Resources Incorporated. They are a group that is designed to help adults with mental disabilities and things. And some of them are residential. Others come in on a daily basis and work. And our kids go and they spend time with those individuals, just spending time. Sometimes it's helping them with the job site stuff that they work on, whether it's doing laundry for local restaurants or something like that, and sometimes it's sitting in a game room playing Uno until you go blind. And but one of our students a few years ago so impacted by that trip that they made arrangements to go back, and they spent a month in the summer working with that same group.
Yeah.
And then that student came back to PCA and started working with St. Timothy Christian Academy as an intern there, and prepped our whole intern program for St. Timothy Christian as a direct result of the experience she had on Minimester.
Yeah.
And then that grew and grew and grew. So the idea that it would be something that's just a week of our time where we're taken off from the classroom will be a total mischaracterization of the impact that it has on kids. And that's one example. There are countless others.
Yeah. How does it impact the entire school? Now, when we talk about the kids taking trips, we'll talk a little bit about middle school, a little bit about upper school. What about the lower school? For families that are coming into lower school, how does Minimester actually impact our lower school families?
That's one thing I love about Minimester, and I love about the intentionality of Prestonwood Christian Academy. If this, obviously, we think of it as an upper school kind of event, because the upper school and some of the middle school kids are the ones who are actually traveling, going out. But the way that Prestonwood has constructed the whole event, we want it to be a function of the entire school. We want it to be something that impacts everybody. And like with lower school, each of our Minimester trips in upper school are paired with a lower school classroom. And so when we need donations to take building materials to Costa Rica for the houses we're building, we contact that elementary class and they start taking up donations. And pretty soon we have 45 tape measures and 82 hammers, and we're ready to go to Costa Rica with the materials we need to be on mission for Christ. And the lower schools had a direct relationship with them. Additionally, just before we leave, we have World Impact Day, and it is such a blessing as a school to have the opportunity to have all of our kids, every one of them from pre-K on up, involved and recognize what we're about to do. And it's a commissioning service of sorts where we're getting our kids ready to step out and go beyond the walls of PCA to make a difference in the world. And our lower school students see that. And then after that service, we go to those lower school classrooms. Each team of students that's heading out on a trip, they go to the classroom that's associated with their trip. They spend time playing with those kids, working with them, talking with them about what they're going to be doing on the trip, and visiting with them. And in the sweetest time, the upper school kids stand in the middle of the room, the lower school kids surround them, and they pray. They pray for those kids that the Lord would protect them and the Lord would use them as they go to serve. And it's just a sweet, sweet time. I know my daughter, who's just stepped into fifth grade, she's excited to be a fifth grader now. A couple of years ago, after World Impact Day, she told me, she said, I think I want to go and tell other people about Jesus. And I said, that's great, sweetheart. That's fantastic. That's what we need to be doing. And she said, but I want to go like the big kids do. Yeah. I want to go on the trips where I can go and tell people about Jesus. And just the fact that my daughter as a third grader is thinking in terms of what's Minimester going to look like when I'm in upper school, in middle school, just such a testament to what's going on as a result of Minimester.
Yeah, it's so neat. Obviously, it impacts our middle school. Our middle school students get to go on trips or do different activities. Greg, tell us a little bit about what our middle school students get to do.
Well, we see it as an enhancement of the curriculum in the classroom. And then also we want to be able to grow our students spiritually. And so there's a lot of opportunity that ranges from grades 5 through 8. In fifth grade, our focus usually is on hands-on activities, field trips. We go to various places which will make sure that we able to hit the focus and the mission of what we've got, and that's to serve and grow in their faith. Yep. And our trip leaders do a really good job of saying, okay, we're going to do something a little bit different this year. We have a different group of, say, fifth graders this year, and they have a focus on X. And so we're going to go out into the community to be able to bring back the gospel and the truth and be able to spread it, even though it might be local. And we don't have to feel like we got to go out internationally. And that's kind of the focus of middle school. Sixth and seventh grade expands what they've learned in chapel, Pride of Brothers and Society of Sisters. And so there's a focus on that, especially with spiritual growth. And then in eighth grade, That's our big Washington, D.C. trip.
So good.
And that's when they're going to be able to go to monuments and museums, and then they're going to be able to bring back what they've learned in 8th grade history and their 8th grade Bible classes, social studies, all the curriculum there. I've personally been on that trip with last year's our first ever senior class when they were 8th graders.
Okay.
And Joshua Expeditions helps us with that trip and is so organized. Yeah. And we see so much in 1 week. Some of my favorites going to the Museum of the Bible. Now, you're talking about a powerful time that you just feel the Holy Spirit on every floor, every level. And it had an impact on me personally. Yeah.
You know, my favorite part of the Museum of the Bible is the exhibit that has all the different books of the languages that the Bible's been translated into. And it's just amazing. And then you look over to the right, and there's a whole wall of yellow books. And it's like, these are the languages, the people groups that we know that don't have a Bible translated in their language yet. And it's just amazing to see and go, oh, my goodness, we need to get God's word to every tongue, every tribe, every nation. So it's a great
thing for our kids to see that and to recognize the work that's still ahead.
Yeah.
And what I love, too, when we got back from that trip, our 8th grade Bible teacher focused the next 2 days of lessons just on the Museum of the Bible, what the kids learned, and just the interaction and the collaboration that they have. And they were just on fire for the Lord. Yeah. And I happened to be in there, and I'm just going, Lord, this is so great.
That's awesome.
And we know that there's a higher being that orchestrated all those conversations, those life experiences. And it's something that made me feel very proud to be part of the Prestonwood Christian Academy school system. And that's another extension of Minimester. Yep. That's a big focus that we do as 8th graders at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the D.C. trip is incredible. I've been on that one, I can remember, 6-8 times or whatever with our 8th graders. It's amazing. I think one of the things that unfortunately we miss is how much of God is actually woven into the framework of this particular country, that when the kids go, they actually get to see it and experience it, etched into the walls of how many of our framers gave, recognition and tribute to God for his divine hand in creating this particular country. And so it's amazing to see from their perspective, kind of like, well, I never knew that. And it's a really neat thing to be at our nation's capital. It's a beautiful time to be there as well, right? D.C. in the spring is always wonderful. It's awful in the winter and terrible in the summer. So I'm always glad Minimester is in the spring. But just a great trip for our middle school students to go as they're kind of growing in responsibility and moving from adolescence to adulthood. That transition time, it really is neat. The Holocaust Museum in D.C. Such just a momentous occasion for them to walk through and see. Right, that from a historical perspective, just a lot of great things on that D.C. trip. So, love that. Anything you want to add on the middle school trips or anything? Have you been on the middle school trips?
I haven't been on middle school. Okay. I've just been able to watch it from afar, and I'm always excited. I know the boys at the famous trip at the Plano campus is Man Camp, where they take them out and they live off the land a little bit. I know they have the big scavenger hunt, for lack of a better term. They probably got a better term for it than that.
Find your food.
It's find your food night, and they give them instructions. They got to navigate out there and find dinner, which isn't killing a squirrel or anything, but nonetheless, those boys come back pumped about Man Camp and really.
And that's with our 7th graders, and that's the perfect age for them to experience that.
Exactly.
So good. Well, Chad, you were mentioning earlier how Minimester kind of ties into PCA's mission. What is that?
I love. I like to think of Minimester as kind of a laboratory of sorts, where we're getting to fulfill the 3 key drivers of our mission statement. The first, embracing biblical truth. I know this year we're going on a trip to Greece. That's the title of the trip is Footsteps of Paul, and we're going to be going to the cities where Paul actually ministered and where he served. We're going to talk about his ministry there, and then we're going to go further and talk about what his ministry is in our lives as we look at the Scripture and look at the letters that he wrote to these places and those kind of things. So in embracing biblical truth, it's going to put put us in a context where we can really do that. Strive for academic excellence. Not all of our Minimester trips are mission-oriented. Some are designed for academic purposes to go deeper and give context to some of the things that we're studying in school. We're taking a trip to France where it's specifically going to focus on French history and culture. Our French teacher, Mr. Ozzy, is going, as well as our history teacher, Miss Stevens, who's done that trip over and over. And they're going to be at the beaches of Normandy and at the Louvre and all sorts of fantastic sites. So in striving for academic excellence, we're going to put context to those things that we're studying in class. And then, of course, the last driver, modeling Christ-like leadership. That looks like so many things on our Minimester trips where we have the opportunity to go and serve. In my Minimester opportunities, I've handed out flyers for a church plant in the Bronx in New York City. I've had an opportunity to feed the homeless in Atlanta. I've worked with the Disabilities Resources Incorporated in Abilene. I had the chance to build houses in Costa Rica. And then I also had an opportunity to do one of the academic trips in Italy, where we went to Florence, Venice, and Rome. And so lots of great opportunities to really do all of those things where it gives you opportunities to serve in a host of different ways. And food bank in Northwest Arkansas.
That's right.
And people tend to think of these trips and they'll look at some as very glamorous and exotic, and they'll look at others as seeming a little more pedestrian. And I want to tell you that I have not been on a single Minimester trip that hasn't impacted me and that hasn't been fantastic. Yeah. It's been loads of fun, spending time with kids and serving, and that's what it's about. I know our upper school students, we're really trying to, in as many ways as we can, work to fulfill the Great Commission through Minimester. We're going to Jerusalem and in Judea and then Samaria and the uttermost parts of the world. Where we go, we've got local missions that take place here in the DFW area. We've also got domestic trips that we're taking throughout the United States, from everywhere from Florida to Colorado, and then we've got also trips that we're taking internationally, obviously Uganda, Brazil, and in Europe and all over. And so we're just excited about the opportunities that gives our kids. One of the things that we have adjusted this year, last year we tried an experiment to see about having our freshmen all remain local and serve locally, and we feel like that's a valuable opportunity. Logistically, we found it to be pretty challenging just in terms of the manpower it takes to have a bunch of local groups in addition to everything we're doing nationally and internationally. So we're going to be switching back. We're certainly going to have the local opportunities available for students who want those, but we're going to be switching back where our freshmen can now travel again with the rest of the upper school students. And so it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of great opportunity. And yeah. I would say if I were a student, I'd be wanting to get a little bit of each of those.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned just kind of the logistics and the effort in putting these things together. Greg, that's one of the reasons we are not in the trip business, but we partner with Joshua Expeditions, who does a lot of the trip management for us. Talk a little bit about why we do that.
Well, Joshua Expeditions, they have just such great experience and depth of knowledge and organization, and it just gives you a sense of peace when you partner with them on various trips, especially our international trips, but even like Washington, D.C.
Sure.
But for the international trips, we usually use our leaders who have many years of experience, just like Dr. Nichols was sharing. He's got a staff that's been with us for a long time. Yeah. They're very tenured, very experienced, and they're perfect trip leaders. I'll give you a prime example for North this year. Last year, we had an England trip, and Sandy and Rick Gamethaler lead that trip. Well, the Gamethalers have been on trips for many, many years, especially Sandy. She used to work at the PCA Plano campus. And I would put them up with anybody as far as experience and knowledge. And it just makes the trip seamless. and be able to go and flow throughout the week. And whatever circumstances, sometimes we have situations that
something happens.
Are not controlled.
That's right.
And when you have experienced leaders like the Game Thalers, it just tends to give a better overall experience.
Yeah, I think JE. I've told people before, if you put all the parts for a car in my garage, if I watch enough YouTube videos, I may eventually be able to put together a car. But if I go down to the Toyota factory, they put one out every minute or so.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in using JE. When we have to pivot, they've pivoted before.
Yeah.
They know exactly what to do, and they know how to take care of our kids in, just the circumstances surrounding travel. You know how it is on your vacation when you get there and the place doesn't open for another hour or those kind of things. That's happening, but it's happening on a scale with 20 or 30 people involved, or the restaurant can't take you, and now you're dealing with 30 people who need to eat. JE has the contacts in all of our destinations, and they've got the experience in all of our destinations. It just makes that run so seamlessly and so and so well. And it takes the load off our leaders, so our leaders can focus on our kids and making sure that we're building those relationships and having those opportunities to serve well.
And they're also known for their safety and security.
Exactly.
And that most definitely gives our parents a sense of peace.
Yeah. And that's, I think, talking about being able to pivot, I was in the Costa Rica trip when the volcano went off.
That's a pivot.
That was a pivot. We were coming back Friday and planning on packing up and getting ready to head out, and a volcano erupted in Costa Rica, and we were not stranded. I'll say this: we were not stranded in Costa Rica, because that is a great place to be. So if you gave me 3 extra days in Costa Rica, it's like, thank you, Lord. But it was interesting because JE has done house builds there. Now, we were not on a house build trip there for that particular year that I was there. But the group that was coming in to build a house couldn't get in because of the ash from the volcano, and we couldn't get out. And so they just asked us, hey, do your kids want to go build a house? And so for 3 days, we got to build a house. And it was a great thing. Just JE was awesome, right? As they looked at, hey, here's the pivot, can we do this? It was awesome. But every trip that I've been on with JE, something always kind of happens, or you see the attention to detail, that they're looking at, all the different things that they've done, the advanced planning, that you just, as the trip goes along seamlessly, and you're like, oh, nothing happened. This was an easy trip. It made an easy trip because of all the work that they had done beforehand.
Exactly.
And so it's a great group to partner with, and we've done it for so many years with them, and they've done an excellent job. And so I'm glad that we just continue that relationship, because it's made this a really great program for our school.
We're also blessed in that PBC, Preston Baptist Church, our missions department, works with us really, really well too, pairing us with ministry partners and tapping into the experience and the resources they have as they've taken trips all over the world routinely. And then, like I say, having specific ministry opportunities in the various locations that our church specifically is tied to, so that we can help.
Especially a lot of the domestic locations that we're picking are actually Prestonwood Network churches that we're working with when we go to those places. So we're actually helping to build that particular network as we go to those particular cities. Well, let's talk about kind of the specifics of what we've got offered for our families coming up. North Campus, I know, right? You got local, domestic, international. Talk to the parents a little bit about what that looks like for the offerings this year.
Well, we're excited. It's the first year that we've been able to provide just our own North trips,
which is awesome.
Grades 9 through 12. We've always combined with PCA Plano, and that's always gone very well for us, but there's also some challenges with that. We've now grown enough that we can have our own trips and our own even international trips. So locally, we've got 2 designations. We've got Salina, and we've got South Dallas. In Salina, they're going to paint a mural. That's going to be led by our art teacher, Ms. Judy C. And this will give their students a chance to develop their portfolios. They can develop those in preparation for college applications. It's a community thing in which the Salina community said there's a need here, and can y'all come and partner with us?
Amen.
And obviously that's going to be a new trip for us, and that will be local. And then a very popular, been this way for several years, is South Dallas. And this trip will focus on the outreach of community support, specifically in the King's Academy, TKA, a school system we're very familiar with, and also the Bonton Farms area in South Dallas. I personally have experience with that. I will just tell you this, our first ever graduating class, the class of 2023, they went on this trip. It was just a North-only trip, being local, when they were freshmen in ninth grade. Mm-hmm. And I was on that trip with them. And those seniors last year, I met with every one of them one-on-one right before they graduated. And I did a survey, was asking them questions. We were sitting down like we are right now. Yeah. And a lot of them went on a lot of international trips, Uganda, Amazon, you name it, all over internationally. And they said their favorite experience, I mean, pretty much it was almost 100%, was the ninth grade South Dallas trip. They still remembered that. And what we did, day one, we went to Bonton Farms, and they got down and dirty. Their work clothes, and they worked the fields, and some of them never experienced a chicken coop. Yeah. And that was a great life experience for them. And then we went into the cafe in Bonton, which you have everything that is cooked fresh. And there are a lot of people that work in downtown Dallas that come over there, and that was impressive. And we got an education of the history of Bonton Farms. And then the next day we partnered with TKA, the King's Academy. Our students went in and they had a buddy system where they buddied up with those students. We ran the chapel, and that was a great enriched experience where we led the singing and we delivered the message, and then we helped with arts and craft, we helped with PE, we helped with recess, we did some tutoring with the kids, we had a little playtime, we helped the teachers there at TKA wherever needed. But really where our kids got attached, the church there, the local church that supports TKA, they have an after-school program from 4 to 6 p.m. And for 3 days in a row, our students went in and met one-on-one and helped tutor those students. And the last day, we took a big picture, and I'm telling you, it was a tearful moment because they didn't want to leave those kids. They came so connected and attached to them. Also, that trip on midweek, we went to a senior retirement home. Our kids personally made a lunch for them, spaghetti and meatballs and the bread and fresh salad and drinks and dessert, and our kids made it personally themselves. And we went and served those residents, and we played bingo. You know how they love their bingo at that age. And our wonderful parents had door prizes, and I was the bingo caller. That was a lot of fun. And those residents loved it, and our kids connected with them. Even the ones that couldn't come down and do bingo, we went up into their rooms and provided a time of service for them as well, prayed with them, prayed over them. We asked them some personal needs. So we had a powerful prayer time after bingo. We're in a community time there in their hall. And then the next day we went to a food pantry. And our students got up early. They went in and they actually helped cook the food. And then we served the homeless that came in. It was a very eye-opening experience for our kids. And then there's a clothing shelter there. We also assist with that as well. And so we did that for a couple of days. And so you're really opening your eyes to those that are in great need. Yeah. And it was such an enriched experience that our kids, first of all, appreciated the things that they had, but they wanted to be able to say, I want to do this more. I want to go out not only locally, but I want to go all over the world to be able to serve those that are in need. And then in our domestic trips, this is kind of new for us this year. We'll make sure that everybody understands we have 3 designated domestic trips. That's Kentucky, Colorado Springs, and South Florida. The Kentucky trip is to enrich biblical knowledge and worldview by studying the apologetics of biblical creation. We're really excited about offering this opportunity. Coach Murray will run this trip for us. And he has a lot of experience in this area. And so I think this will be a very popular trip for us, especially for the apologetics reasons. And I know our apologetics teacher is very excited about that, Mr. Yonan as well. And then we have Colorado Springs. The focus on this will be evangelism and community support. We're going to serve alongside homeless ministries, and we're going to partner with local churches there as well. That's a wonderful thing about PBC. Partners all over with churches throughout the United States, and we're partners with them, and we'll go into an area like Colorado Springs and go in, and there'll be a lot of service responsibility and needs there in Colorado Springs as well. And in South Florida, we're going to focus on the crisis pregnancy centers, and that's a big, huge focus for PBC here, not only the Plano campus, but also the North campus as well. And then there's the homeless ministries that we're going to partner with there in South Florida. And so we will participate in street evangelism, support their local partner churches as well. So there's a lot of great opportunities domestically. And then our one international trip that we provided last year for just our North students is the England trip, and Sandy and Rick Gamethaler will run that, and I believe Dr. Williams is going as well with our students this year. I know he's excited about that. Yep. And we'll support the UK USA ministries, and what we do with there is we help with children's camps, street evangelism, ministry support. But the reason we choose this area, it's called the Trees Valley area, and only 3% of its population is claiming to be born-again Christians.
That's amazing.
So there's a great need right there in England to spread the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very, very true. Plano got a couple different things. We may not be able to run through every single trip. Let's get the highlights. A couple things that are a little different. We do offer parent-led mission trips and college-led trips, which I've done both of those with my kids, and internships. And so those are options that are available for our students as well.
Yeah, those give parents a little bit of flexibility. If there's if families intends to go do a mission trip and that kind of thing, and they want to take their student, and that works for their schedule, we certainly endorse that, and we want to give opportunity for parents to lead out in a mission trip other than what we're offering. And then we find, especially for our juniors, it is a pretty great time for them to get the opportunity to go and visit colleges. So we've got some parameters that we put in place so that they can take that opportunity to go and visit schools and then come back and share with us what they've learned, so that we've got more information and better information for the rest of our students as well. Yep. And then, of course, internships. I've had students that want to go into medicine and those kind of things, so they've paired with a local doctor and been able to shadow them along the way. And we feel like in those areas we're serving our students well and giving them some flexibility in what they do. Yep.
But you've got local, domestic, and international as well for Plano.
Yeah, we do have local missions. We'll be serving in a variety of places throughout the DFW area, different ministry groups and that kind of thing. This year, I'm excited. Domestically, one of our trips, it feels like an international trip, but it's actually domestic. We're going to Puerto Rico for the first time, and I like that trip because it's a great opportunity for us to serve. I feel like it'll feel like an overseas trip because we're going over a sea, but at the same time, you don't need a passport for that. You can just go to Puerto Rico. We've got our trip to Abilene that I mentioned earlier. It's a fantastic trip, and one I would encourage any and every student to take the opportunity to go to. We're doing a Boston history and culture trip as well, and that'll be a great opportunity for us to learn a little bit about the history of our nation. We're taking a trip to a Native American reservation, a Navajo reservation in New Mexico. We served there last year. Miss Toby Graham is leading that trip, and she went on it last year and just fell in love. And she said she jumped on it when I offered the chance to go back. New York City, that's another example of one of our academic trips. That's going to be a trip led by Mr. Rutherford and co-led by Miss Hurt. She's going along. So if you are interested in fine arts, you're going to see a lot of Broadway shows and get the opportunity to find out about fine arts as it pertains to New York City, where theater lives. So Oklahoma City, I love that one. It's just up the road from us, and it's an opportunity, a good place for us to serve. One of our new teachers This year, Seth Garlitz has done ministry work in Oklahoma for years, and he offered to lead out in that trip. Las Vegas, we're going to work with our partner church, our PBC network church there, the Walk Church, and then we're also serving with network churches in Denver. Internationally, we're going back to the Amazon. That's a trip that I think that's one of our oldest trips.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've been doing it for many, many years, serving in Brazil. Our students will get on a boat, sleep in hammocks, and go up and down the Amazon River, serving in villages and communities along the way. Uganda, we're excited to go back to Uganda this year and serve Mr. Palit, who has served internationally. He was actually a Joshua Expeditions guide for many years. He's got a great affinity for travel. He's done a lot of it, and he's led groups a lot. He's going to be taking that group to Uganda. Costa Rica, we're going back. Dan mentioned the house build trip. I was on the house build trip last year. Fantastic opportunity to serve and to see areas that our kids aren't accustomed to seeing. In addition, they're going to pair that with some time in the rainforest where they get to do some science study. Mr. Mick Miller, one of our science teachers, will be heading that up. France, I mentioned earlier, they're going to go see, the historic sites in France as well as, cultural things with Miss Stevens and Mr. Ozzie. Then Dominican Republic, that's going to be available to our basketball players. Comes right on the heels of their season, and they go and do a basketball ministry where they play with different teams throughout the Dominican Republic. It's a trip we've taken year after year after year, and great things have come of that. Germany, we're going to be going back to Germany this year. We went last year with partner entities through the church, and we'll also be pairing that with a little Protestant Reformation tour. We're going to go see, where Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses on the door.
Yeah.
And
that actually goes back to what Greg was saying earlier about, the Reformation that came out of Germany, right, spread throughout Europe. A lot of our spiritual heritage here in America came from England, and you go back there to those countries, and when you're talking about the number of Christians is 3%. Germany, when they were there, was like 1% or less than, and to think that
it's the birthplace.
It is. Right, so much of the spiritual heritage, right, has now, unfortunately, that fire has died out, and so it's great for our kids to go back there and to take the gospel back there. But it's also a reminder for us, I think, as a listen. If we don't keep the main thing, right, we're going to be Europe in 20 years as well. So good reminder for us on the Germany trip.
Mexico, we're going to Mexico to serve in an orphanage in Chiapas. And Miss Wehoff, our Spanish teacher, is heading that up, and looking forward to hearing what the girls do down there. It is a girls-only trip, and so they'll be off serving in the orphanage there. Greece, we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, Footsteps of Paul, and I can't wait to hear what they learn and how they get to internalize. There's something about seeing those sites where those actual events from the Bible took place. That's just so incredible. Romania, this will be our third or fourth trip to Romania. Chip Childers, one of our history teachers, this will be, I think this will be his third time over there, at least his third time. And he's very well versed. We've got a great ministry partner there. And we're really excited to go back to Cuba. We haven't been to Cuba in several years, but we're super excited to go and see what God's going to do through us there. Really exciting in that Pastor Gilberto Corredera from Prestonwood Espanol is going to be integral to leading out in that trip. He's from Cuba and has contacts there with different ministry partners and things. And then our band director, Mr. Jimenez, he moved from Cuba to the U.S. when he was a child, and so he's going to be going back. He said this will be his first trip back since leaving Cuba as a child, and so really excited about all of the opportunities that our students are going to have. I think there's a great assortment from which to choose, and I would just encourage families, students, to pray and consider where God would have you serve and how He would move in your heart to take you to the place where He wants you to serve. And I've got a friend who's a long-term missionary in Ghana. And he says, long-term missions are about serving the people in the area. Short-term missions like these are about changing the hearts of those who go on the short-term missions. And I'm excited about what God's going to do in the hearts of our students as a result of this. And I know we've got students who are serving all over the world now as a result of seeds that were planted on these Minimester trips. And so it's a great opportunity for us to impact the world, but also to impact the students of Prestonwood Christian School System.
Yeah. This is it's an incredible opportunity for our school, for our students, for parents kind of looking at this. I know it falls at a weird time. Anybody who plays a spring sport is always kind of like, oh, you got to be kidding. Minimester and then spring break right in the middle, of baseball, right? Soccer. I mean, last year our soccer team was like, they had to choose between going to the state championship or going on a Minimester trip. It was like, but it's such an incredible program that really has done so well. And the impact that we get back every year when we hear from the students, when we hear from the teachers, when we hear from the families, reminds us of why we do it. So as we're planning for the trips now, people are thinking about it like, okay, is this really important? Is it really that big of a deal? Just trust us that it is one of those programs that is done really, really well. Even when the little things happen along, right? The way the little mistakes and we didn't make this flight or we got caught here, whatever. I'm telling you, it's amazing to watch how that deepens the relationships that our staff has with our students going on those trips. Greg, as you said, right, as you're spending a week with those students and seeing different things and having different experiences, it really takes you out of that classroom where now it's not just a teacher and they're trying to teach you a subject, but they're real people and you're doing life together and you get to see, men and women who love Jesus serve together with our students. And so it's an incredible opportunity. And so just from a parent perspective, I know it's been a blessing for me as a parent, for my kids to go through PCA and to be a part of all the different Minimester opportunities. We've done kind of a little smattering of all of these different things. And so it's done really well. I appreciate you guys coming on, spending some time talking about these things and really leading the charge in making sure that Minimester stays as a great program at PCA. So any last words for our parents?
I would just say, we live in the Bible Belt here. It's kind of a cocoon. And it's great exposure for our students to get out and really face the reality that not everybody in this world is a Christian, not even in the United States. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need a different perspective, a different lens, and that's a biblical lens. It's a worldview, and that's who we are. And we think about what is our why here at PCA. This is part of our why, our mission, our purpose.
Yeah. I like to also think in terms of the different ways that we serve. Because sometimes it's overt evangelism. Other times it's just being the hands and feet of Jesus to people who need to see the hands and feet of Jesus at work in a practical way in their lives. And it's just such a blessing to be a part of all those things. You talked about the things that surprise us on Minimester. Last year we had a Mexico trip planned, and we had to pivot and change it real quickly due to some circumstances that arose. And we moved those girls to Costa Rica. And some of those girls, they had some time at the end of a day. They were in the park, and one of their leaders challenged them to go and share the gospel with a young man sitting on a park bench. And they visited with him and talked with him a little bit. He said he didn't have a Bible. One of our girls just handed her Bible immediately right over to him. And there was a ministry group they were working with. He posted on social media, and the people at the ministry group recognized that it was our girls. And he said he was an atheist. But he said he had been really struggling, and he came to a place where he prayed, and he said, God, if you are real, I want you to do something that will show me that you are real. And then he said, all of a sudden, 18 missionary girls show up and meet me in the park. And boy, how God uses such incredible circumstances. I told the girls, I believe the reason you didn't go to Mexico is God had an appointment for you right here in Costa Rica.
divine appointments. Let's see what God has to do for us this year. And as you said, right, pray. These are expensive trips, but the mission trips are tax deductible. So as kids can send out letters to friends and family and help them raise support and things like that. So it's an incredible opportunity. But parents, as you're thinking about these things, right, lower school, middle school, upper school, be just part of the community. Be in prayer for the students and the trips as they go out there. And then that week, just bathe those kids in prayer and those trips in prayer as we go all over, right, from Salina in South Dallas to places here in the United States to all across the world. So incredible opportunity. Thanks, guys, for taking some time and sharing with our parents about Minimester.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you for investing the time to listen to this episode of The Journey. Please take a minute to share with friends and family who will also benefit from this valuable resource. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast app. It is truly our blessing and honor to walk with you on The Journey.